Australia's favourite budget car is back in next generation form. This is the new MG3, but is it still cheap? And will it be more cheerful? Let's find out. Let's talk prices first, because city cars are a very price sensitive segment. Now, official pricing, we don't know it yet, but it is going to be out on the same day that this video comes out. So this is a little bit awkward. So anyway, look, go to whichcar.com.au to find out the official pricing. But I can tell you right now, we've got a bit of a guide to what to expect. So this is going to be a more expensive car than the old MG3, starting about $5 higher. So look, at the moment, the MG3, the outgoing model, 18,990 drive away. So I guess we're expecting 23,490, 23,990 drive away, but that's for the regular petrol model. This is the hybrid. That's going to be more expensive. We're thinking that's going to be in the 30s somewhere, maybe mid to high 30s, depending on spec. So that is getting a little bit exy, but it is similar, if it's in that area, to a Toyota Yaris Hybrid, which of course it is petrol-electric only at the moment. Suzuki is bringing out a new generation Swift very soon, but that's going to be a mild hybrid system, so not such a direct rival. We do know equipment levels though, and there are significantly more standard features than you got with the old MG3. Safety is ramped up even for the base trim grade Excite, and includes adaptive cruise control, blind spot alert, and speed limit monitoring. Tech upgrades include a 10-inch infotainment display and a 7-inch digital driver cluster. Stepping up to the Essence brings additional tech and convenience items, as well as a lift in cabin materials. The new MG3 is a bit bigger too, so it's about 6 centimetres longer nose to tail, extra 5 centimetres in the wheelbase, so the gap between the two axles. The width, that's out by 7 centimetres, to give it a better stance on the road. Height, fractionally down, just by a couple of millimetres. What else can we tell you? The palette choice. Pretty varied. You've got a black, you've got a white, you've got a grey, but some brighter colours as well that are kind of obligatory for the city car class, and that includes this rather fetching Brighton blue. Perfect match to the sky today. 16-inch alloy wheels, rather snazzy Y-spoke design, and we believe these wheels are standard on every MG3, including the base petrol. Overall design, nothing really surprising, but it's a very tidy bit of styling. We've got creases and scalloping in the flanks to make those a little bit more interesting. We've got teardrop-shaped headlights and tail lights, very Peugeot-esque, or at least last generation Peugeot, like a 208. Now, before we jump in, do want to do a door test, because that's a good test of build quality for more affordable car. Well, that sounds pretty good. No tinniness there. So with the interior design, quite a few similarities to the MG4 electric hatchback. You've got this sort of octagon shaped steering wheel, leather wrapped, mimicking the MG logo. You've got 7-inch driver cluster ahead, just like in the MG4. Same, the 12.3-inch infotainment display, though sits a bit lower and more naturally than it does in the MG4's dash. Perception of quality, it's actually surprisingly high. This definitely doesn't feel like a budget conscious car, but do need to bear in mind this is the flagship Essence Hybrid. We're not sure what other trim levels we get. We believe that there's a grey with black, but this one's the white with black. Very smart looking seats, mixture of fabric and pleather. Also get pleather on the dash in this midsection. Nice pattern plastic here. I think one of my favourite trim elements though is this smooth plastic that looks like ceramic for the surround for the gear selector, and also again a little bit here up on the dash. Now, this is a city car. There are always cost-cutting measures that you will find. So a couple in the MG3 we've found so far. The steering wheel adjusts for height, but not for reach. I can't remember the last time I got in a car that didn't have telescopic adjustment. So that's not ideal, because that means not everyone will get the perfect driving position. For example, for me, I've got longer legs in relation to my torso. So yeah, this is right for my legs, but not quite perfect for the reach. But look, it's a minor thing. I've already been driving this car and it's comfortable enough. Then you get an auto up-down driver's window with anti-pinch, but that's not why I broke my finger. But other windows, auto down, but manual up. Again, it's just a little niggly thing. Storage. Here we've got a center console cubby area, sliding tray. It's a little bit loose, which is not ideal, but you can put a smartphone on there, slide it all the way back, armrest down, and you've got a couple of cup holders here with a little divider, another 2 cup holders up here, also with a removable divider. Tray here for a smartphone, but no wireless charging. Bit of a disappointment, especially on a flagship model. USB ports here, C and B. Glove box, that's a decent size. And the door pockets, very generously sized indeed. Infotainment display, so a good size at 12.3 inches. That's larger than you get in the rival Yaris, for example. Not the most inspiring of displays, black and white, but the icons are very clearly identified, quite intuitive. And you do have the option of a tile type menu, which is a little bit more interesting. You've got your app connect for smartphone mirroring. We'll touch on that in a minute. Climate control, Bluetooth, music, navigation. That's standard on the Essence models, but not the base Excite. So not wireless connection for smartphone mirroring, CarPlay and Android Auto. So you do need to use a cable. Of course, a lot of people that buy an MG3, the younger generation, they're more likely to use this than the factory system. There you go, we're all familiar with that. The driver cluster, you can adjust part of that with the steering wheel controls. Press this button here, you can cycle through the trip computer, for example. There's the energy flow, very important for a hybrid, so you can see what part of the drivetrain is working and when. Very basic, but kind of all the information that you need on there. For a car that's only 4.1 meters long, this is pretty good knee space, I reckon. So this is behind my driving position. I'm 5'8", decent clearance, headspace, maybe not so generous, but still fairly decent. Foot space is excellent. Comfy bench, the cushion is quite long, so for my slightly longer legs, I'm happy with that. Nice and comfy. Couple of areas of cost cutting though, again, no armrest. So your storage, well, it's just pouches, door pockets that are really just for bottles, USB port here, very tiny tray down here, and grab handles that are under-damped. But again, you know, it's just a small thing. Now look at this, vents. That's a bit of a rarity in the city car class. Right, let's check out the boot space. No auto tailgate, even on the flagship model. Again, it's just a small thing. Not a huge boot, but it's also not bad for the class. You get a couple of decent sized bags in there. Luggage, 293 litres, so it's about 14 litres down on the old MG3. Not as much space as you get in the Polo, which is from Volkswagen. That's 351 litres, but there is more than you get in the Mazda 2, which is 250 litres, and more than a Yaris, which is 270 litres. Under the floor, tyre repair kit. That's for the hybrid. The regular petrol engine gets a space saver spare. The issue under the floor here is that it has to account for the 12-volt regular battery, which has got to be moved here because the electric motor takes up a fair bit of room under the bonnet up front. Now, unusually, the seat back is not a split fold 60/40 like you get in most rivals. Single piece. Can't really access the latches because of the parcel shelf, so a little bit of a pain. You've got to open up the door here, do this latch here, come round to the other side and do that latch and then fold down. That seat back's a little bit in the way, there we go. Have to force it down a little bit. And it's also stepped, which is not quite ideal either. Right, we're on the road, so this seems like the perfect time to talk about the drivetrain, which is a little bit more complex than your average city car engine. So we've got a regular 1.5 litre petrol engine, Atkinson cycle, just like Toyota likes, so that gives you that extra efficiency. In fact, the thermal efficiency is said to be 41%, which is rather excellent. We've also got an electric motor, a generator, and then you've got the actual battery that powers the electric motor. So 75 kilowatts for the petrol engine, 100 kilowatts for the electric motor. So the big daddy of the drivetrain is actually the electric motor, and you sense that in the way that the car drives, because here at low speeds, just going around the suburbs, we're just on the electric motor at the moment. And we also know that not just because we can't hear the petrol engine, but you can see the little EV logo on the driver cluster. If we push a little bit faster, we can still stay in electric mode. So that's a little bit better than you get with the Toyota hybrid systems typically, which are very hard to keep in just EV mode. Still electric mode, but now it's in HEV, hybrid electric vehicle mode. So that tells us now that the engine is coming in just to help with that extra bit of performance that we've asked by pushing harder on the accelerator pedal. The other unusual thing about this drivetrain, it's a bit like the Nissan e-Power drivetrains, where the petrol engine can actually drive the generator, which is in turn helping to replenish the battery. And the higher that the battery is, the more chance you've got of having the electric power only for driving the wheels. And that of course gets you the best efficiency. Now, the urban efficiency is rated at just 0.9 litres per 100 kilometres, so super low. But on the combined cycle, it's 4.3, which is still quite a bit better than the old MG3, which was a petrol engine only. Not quite as good as the Yaris Hybrid, which is 3.3, but that's still very good efficiency. Now, as with any good hybrid, you can have a look at the energy flow to try and understand which parts of the drivetrain are doing what. So at the moment we've come to a standstill, so we can see that we're just in electric mode only. It's quite a small diagram, so it's a shame you can't have it on the larger 12-inch infotainment screen, so you could see a little bit easier how it's all working, but maybe I just need some specs. Now, another way that the MG3 Hybrid drives a bit like an EV, just like the MG4 electric hatch, actually, is that there's adjustable regen. Now, you can do that via the central touchscreen, or you can actually program the steering wheel controls. There's a star button here to adjust that regen. Now, there's low, and there's medium, and there's high. Now, if we put it onto high, there we go, and then lift off the accelerator pedal. Yeah, so the car actually decelerates quite quickly, so it is almost like that one pedal driving that you get with the MG4. They just won't quite bring you to a full stop like that MG will. Okay, we've broken out of the suburbs now onto the open road. So with our testing today so far, we're showing 5.5 litres per 100 kilometres average consumption. I did see as low as 4.8 earlier. So that's quite encouraging. Now, we are in eco mode at the moment, and we get 3 driving mode choices in the hybrid. So we go into a normal mode, and there's a sport. I'm not going to quite go into sport yet, because I'm going to tell you that the combined power in this MG3 Hybrid is 155 kilowatts. That is quite a bit of power for a city car. That's really warm hatch territory. What's the performance like? Okay, well, let's get it into sport. So we are giving it all the berries. So this is where we have the electric motor and the petrol engine combining. Accelerate. Oh yeah. That is not bad acceleration at all. MG claims 8 seconds for the 0 to 100 sprint, and that's quite believable. And for going from 80 to 120, it says 5 seconds for acceleration. That's not too shabby at all, particularly for a city car. You can feel that regen kicking in at the moment. It's in the high mode, so I'm actually going to back it off because we're now doing a bit more of a constant 70-80 kilometers an hour, and it's just a little bit jerky when you just come off the accelerator pedal a little bit. So let's go with the medium. Okay, yeah, that's a bit nicer. That's a little bit more fluid. In fact, I'm even going to go into the low mode, so it should be even more of a sort of coasting effect. Yeah, I like that as well. Ride quality. Well, it's quite a plus. I say this is really comfortable. Now, we are on those 16-inch wheels, so it's not very often these days we drive cars on 16-inch wheels. Everything seems to be 19s and 20s, even 21s these days. And relatively chubby tyres, 55 profile, so that obviously helps give you that extra layer of suspension and absorption. It's probably just on some of the sharper bumps, like road joins, where it doesn't quite isolate you from those, but generally with bigger bumps it does a very nice job indeed of giving you a supple ride without ever getting into floatiness. The vertical control is just where it needs to be. The steering, that's really good too. Maybe not quite perfect on the straight ahead, just a fraction of vagueness, but it's really nice and linear, smooth otherwise to use around town. It's just a very easy car to drive, and not all city cars are effortless to drive. So just going back to that performance of this hybrid drivetrain, so yes, this MG3 Hybrid is not going to be especially affordable by looks of things for a city car, but it's going to give you the performance, it seems, to live up to that money. And we've got a lot of cop cars going by, but I can assure you I'm not speeding, I'm under the limit. Now, something all city cars should be is fun to drive. So I've said that the handling, or the steering at least, going around town is very nice, steering very nicely weighted. So we're just going to go through a roundabout here, which is a bit of a chicane, and little left, little right. Oh, that's very nicely controlled. That's definitely something you wouldn't have said about the old MG3. I've mentioned a couple of little niggles here and there with the MG3 cabin. The driving experience, there aren't that many. One of them is probably the intelligent speed assist thing, so that gives you your speed limit recognition system. But if you just go a little bit, yeah, there we go, you hear that, the little chime. If you just go over 1 or 2 kilometers, I mean, you might say, well, Jez, don't speed, but come on, this is the real world. We all go a few kilometers over a limit. And remember, usually by GPS, you actually would still be under the limit or right on it. So you can turn that off, and because there goes the chime again. So yeah, I would turn it off. And yes, like most of these systems on cars, it's a default system, so you have to turn it off every time. With an adaptive cruise system that proved to be jerky at freeway speeds, the new MG3 on first acquaintance has proved to be more at home in the suburbs than out of town. But it is classed as a city car after all. Saying that, we recorded our best fuel economy on our big drive, 4.8 litres per 100 kilometres, where the trip computer suggested an average of 7.2 after 100 kilometres of stop-start multi-day urban running. The new MG3 is better than the old model in pretty much every way, except price. We still don't know exactly how much it's going to cost, but you can check that out on the link below, whichcar.com.au. But what we can say for now, pricing aside, is that this is a very fine city car. It drives just like an MG4 EV hatch, just with a petrol engine in the mix as well. And that's a very good thing indeed. And this just in, MG has confirmed the MG3 will be priced from $23,990 RRP for the petrol model, confirming our earlier speculation. The Hybrid Plus, that's priced from $27,990 RRP, or from $29,990 RRP for this range-topping Essence model. That will equate to a low 30k drive-away figure. So, if not quite as sharply priced as the new Swift, the MG3 does offer stronger value than its most direct full hybrid rival, the Yaris. And that completes a city car package that, if not perfect, is very solid indeed.